And baby, I'm TFC till I die.
Hello and welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, the Toronto FC fan show. I'm Mike Newell, and look, I had a nice little opening here that I normally do, but then Canada Soccer went and did some wild stuff today. So, let's just get right sort of into it this week. We will talk about Toronto FC. This is a Toronto FC podcast, but it would be kind of remiss for us to not talk a little bit about the news that just dropped, like an hour and a half ago, that the Canadian men's national team has a new head coach, and it is Jesse Marsch. The circumstances around his hiring and how he's getting paid is going to be very interesting. We will get into that. We will also talk about the fact that TFC's 5-match winning streak was snapped on the weekend against NYCFC and all the fireworks that sort of came out of it. It was a sort of nothing burger game until literally the end. And then we'll sort of get into all of that and then sort of tee you up for next week coming Saturday against Montreal. With that said, your co-host, your favorite co-host and mine, Jeffrey P. Nesker, is in the building. Jeff, how you doing, buddy?
Mikey Singh's not going to be happy about that. I just noticed your tag, your little tag there under your picture, and I have to say I absolutely love it. Presented by Hallmark. Love presented by Hallmark. I'm going to do that a lot over the course of this show because I'm in utter disbelief. Ouch. What a man.
Well, let's just jump right into it. From Matthew Shinetti at TSN Sports, basically breaking the news, really 20 minutes before Canada Soccer came out, and just basically was like, yeah, we hired him. Jesse Marsch is the new Canadian men's national team manager. It's been made official. Kevin Blue has unveiled him. Jesse Marsch has done a press conference already, which is really quick with all of this. Look, I tweeted I was underwhelmed by the move. I have nothing personal against Jesse Marsch or anything like that. Not a name that's going to make me jump out of my seat, but I'm going to give him all the chances and opportunity that I gave John Herdman when he was hired.
John Herdman, former,
but just obviously what's making a lot of the news beyond the fact that he was hired and a lot of people having opinions of whether or not he's the right guy or not is the manner in which he has been hired. And the news, and it's really interesting because it came out in the press release. It was very, they're very explicit about this. That essentially
they're beholden to their corporate masters. I mean, it was the lead.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, the fact that all three MLS clubs and Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, the overlords of our beloved Toronto FC, are chipping in and essentially helping to pay for Jesse Marsch's wages while he is national team manager. The contract runs till the 2026 World Cup, and then we'll see what happens after that. But an interesting arrangement to bring him in because, let's be real, Canada Soccer alone would not be able to afford Jesse Marsch based on the current financial situation at Canada Soccer. So, Jeff, I know you have a lot of opinions on this. I don't know how long we want to go, but I'm going to let you go, and then I got some thoughts in terms of the arrangement.
In terms of the man, I think it's a great hire. I don't think the ends justify the means. As I said, dude, if I want a Bentley and I can't afford it, I don't get a Bentley. And if someone buys that Bentley for me, it's not my Bentley anymore. I appreciate the desire of everybody to correct me and say, oh, Nesker, corporate sponsorship is a tale as old as time. Yes, it is, but you're being deliberately obtuse. It's not the same thing. This is yet another encroachment by vested corporate interest into formerly protected bastions, that's item A. And I don't like that. And we should all be alarmed by it, because our federation is willing to auction everything off to the highest bidder. And we've proven it under the auspices of nothing about this is good. If it's an end run around Canada soccer business, which charitably it is, you've hit the nuclear button with maybe a decade left on this deal. I mean, how are they going to sit at the negotiating table now that you've done a complete end run over them? To say nothing of who Jesse Marsch is beholden to, what it says about team selection, what it says about, Paul, like, are we going to have to play Paul Areola now at midfield just because? Like, this is so dumb, and I am unbelievably alarmed about it. Like, the 2008 housing crisis happened because everybody and their mother took out shaky loans, right? Was fixing Canada soccer another prospective house of cards that can fall apart? Like, shouldn't we fix one thing before we destroy another? This is insanity, and it's Band-Aid solutions on top of Band-Aid solutions. And let me be clear, if we didn't have the money to hire Jesse Marsch, we shouldn't have hired Jesse Marsch. Like, this isn't robbing from Peter to pay Paul. This is putting yourself so far into arrears that by the time the World Cup 2026 is over, we may not have a federation anymore. Like, talk about putting all of your eggs in one basket and just going heavens to Betsy. This is crazy. And I work in the film industry where, like, that's all we do. And I'm crying foul. So, I mean, you like, this is a gold. This is speculation, the likes of which I've never seen before. This is complete insanity by people that should know better. And I have nothing more to say about it. Like, this is nuts. This is nuts. Presented by planters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to reserve some judgment personally on this. So this is the official wording within the press conference, or sorry, the press release, excuse me. The heading being philanthropic support from MLS owners, which again will take you back. But basically, the appointment of Marsch is assisted by major philanthropic contributions from the owners of the 3 Canadian-based MLS clubs: Vancouver Whitecaps, Joey Saputo, not CF Montreal, but Joey Saputo himself, and Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, and supplemented by other private donors. Who those private donors are, we don't know. In recognition of their significant philanthropic support, Marsch's position will be formally titled as the MLS Canada Men's National Team head coach. So, yes, you've heard that right. He is the MLS Canada Men's National Team head coach. That's the official title that we have to sort of call him by. And during the term of his initial, and this is during the term of his initial contract. So this will be the initial contract running till 2026. The type of donor recognition is common at universities and hospitals and NCAA sports, and is starting to be used in the Canadian sport system. For example, with the Stollery family women's national team head coach support at Golf Canada, where Kevin Blue, who is the now president, the CEO essentially of Canada Soccer, is formerly from. So this is, he's taken a playbook page from the playbook that he is bringing over from Golf Canada. These commitments are part of a forthcoming major gifts program that will provide Canadian philanthropists with a structured opportunity to support Canada soccer programs of all types, including the men's and women's national team systems, from youth teams up through the senior national teams, period, end quote. Interesting because, look,
my eyes are glazing over.
Fair, but the major things you need to take out of this is the fact that, one, Kevin Blue was brought in for one major purpose, right? It's to fundraise. That's what he was fantastic at Golf Canada, was to fundraise. So this is what he was brought in to do. And he found an avenue to bring in partners. I'm going to put aside your concerns are valid. I'm going to put them aside for a second. Just look at that's just at the very
right they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Like, so, like, this is, I'm going to put the concern aside and just look at the very technical facts of this, right? He goes out and he finds philanthropic partners. It's part of his job. It's what he's supposed to do. Think of it like an executive director at a non-for-profit. That's what you're supposed to go out and find donors and people to
Except
give to the
for
cause.
the very obvious thing that this is not a nonprofit. So
Candidate Soccer is a nonprofit. It is a nonprofit. That is, you can debate nonprofits that have cash reserves and things like that, but it is a nonprofit, right? So he's gone and done that, and he looks like he's going to be finding other ways to fund the national team programs, the youth programs, through this forthcoming Major Gifts program, whatever this.
Hey, I hope it involves
look like.
flinging feces across the boardroom table at the CSB people, because that's essentially what just happened. I mean, why not just do it literally at this point?
Hey, look, the CSB thing is a whole other carton, right? That is sort of, it's not explicitly brought up here, but it is a part of the conversation, right? The fact that, you know, some of the profits, a lot of the profits are being siphoned away to CSB to essentially run the Canadian Premier League, right? So there is that. And now you need to start thinking about, okay, the Whitecaps, CF Montreal through Joey Saputo, and more importantly to this podcast, Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, by proxy Toronto FC, now have direct hands in hiring the manager of the men's national team.
No, it's a gift, Mike. It's philanthropy. There's free money exists. There's no strings attached.
Look, I'm reserving it. We don't know exactly what the ask is yet, but there's an ask. No one's given money for free, right? We know this.
Nobody is.
So the question becomes, what is that give? What is sort of the ask from the three clubs? And presumably there is other private donors. It says here, other private donors. So who are these other private donors? What are their sort of asks? And they don't have to be, I'm not saying these all have to be insipidous asks like trying to overreach or anything like that. But look, when you're donating money, the expectation is you're going to get something in return, whether it's a tax receipt, whether it's a little bit more influence on the board.
The tax receipt.
No, but I mean, the question is just, what does that look like? We don't know yet. Therefore, I'm going to step back from there and reserve judgment. But
we can guess. I mean, and it's not that far of a stretch to guess. It means It means what the crazy U.S. men's national team troll accounts have been levying against GGG for the last in time immemorial, right? Like, you're going to see the equivalent of Paul Arriola, starting in midfield for us. It will be an MLS centric team selection. And if you don't think that that's coming, I have beachfront property in Idaho you might be interested in. I'm sorry. This is not a difficult stretch of the imagination. It's not even 6 degrees of separation. You have 3 MLS clubs with a vested interest now in team selection for the Canadian national team, a coach that's hired until the end of World Cup. Like, the roadmap can't be more obvious. And I'm not going to obfuscate it here. Like, it's clear as a bell, unfortunately. So, I hate to say I told you so, but I am saying I told you so. You are going to see a knock-on effect almost immediately, with respect.
I'm not so sure about it. I mean, like, look, the senior team is set, right? Generally speaking, that team is set. Like, you're not swapping out Tejan Buchanan for, I don't know, probably Mosebabito may make the team anyway. But you know what I mean? Like, you're not swapping out, Kamani Stewart-Baines for Tejan Buchanan, right? Like, that's not where we're going here. I think one of the things you could see here is, again, MLS, the 3 Canadian teams, MLSC in a lot of ways, which, look, I think some of this has been happening behind the scenes and quietly anyway for the last
100%.
10 to 15 years. This is now just more official, and it's probably a much more significant sort of financial transaction that's happening at this point. But look, those 3 teams have been influencing in a lot of ways the selections of the men's national team, since really probably like 2010. Sure. From that perspective. So I don't think this is necessarily new. I think what it is, though, is that it is just going to be much more official and codified. And I think what you're also going to see is, look, you're probably going to see a little bit of, like, MLSE is going to have a little bit more influence on national team games played in BMO Field, right? Like, when you go to BMO Field right now, people always complain that there's a lineup to get inside BMO Field because it takes forever because technically MLSE doesn't lend all of its staff to run a national team game at BMO Field, right? They're running on a skeleton crew.
Same. Come on. There's going to be no knock-on effect that's positive for us. It'll be the same old.
I'm not saying it's positive. I'm just saying, like, you're going to have more influence. Those teams will have more influence on how sort of, match days run, the marketing, the all those kind of things that those teams are good at, right? And Canada Soccer is good at to a certain extent, but just doesn't have the money to go that extra mile. You know what I mean? And look, you want to talk about wanting to be a part of this World Cup. MLSE, here in Toronto has been extremely involved in this World Cup bid. Like, there is a planning committee for the World Cup. Yep. That planning committee is essentially to MLSE, right? Like, it is essentially a lot of influence from MLSE, right? So they want to be a part of this. Obviously, a facility that they manage is going to be hosting games. So obviously there is a tie-in directly. But make no mistake, the timing of Jesse Marsch's hire, the timing of his contract, the additional funds that are being poured into his contract, like from those, there will be some hands in some pockets. There'll be some hands in some pies, and we'll see what that looks like.
I think we know what it looks like. It's Rogers and Bell at the board of MLSE and all the fun, amazing things that created for us. I mean, like, why is this all that we can do? Is just get ourselves caught between an immovable force and an unstoppable object? Like, and this is a smart business play. This is a garbage business play born out of desperation and tears. And anybody celebrating it is just been mollywopped by how incompetent this federation is. This is not a win, auctioning yourself off to the highest to the highest bidder in a point of desperation. This is a panic move, and we will see it manifest. And I don't care if you want to put a tinfoil hat on me. This is insanity, and we have just completely sold ourselves off for parts. We're scrap metal. And for a coach who's charitably has a terrible record in domestic football and almost no experience in club football.
Oh, I don't know if that's exactly
farm
true.
On this guy. We bet the farm on this guy.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I mean, look, like, he did well at Salzburg. He did well at Red Bull. He probably should have had more time. He should have had more time with the Impact, frankly. But I mean, Joey Saputo. So
Joey Saputo, his taskmaster.
Yeah.
Let's not forget. Let's not forget who.
I mean, and you think about it. Okay, Leipzig didn't quite go as well. Obviously, everybody knows about what happened at Leeds.
Let's give him $1 billion.
But I think I'm gonna wait and see. I'm gonna wait and see, and I'm gonna give him a chance, right? Because I think there are some parts of his game and the way that he plays that could fit this national team, right? Again, like we said, this senior team is set. Yeah, like yes. I mean, right now, yes, because that's the situation we're in right now. Right. And that's a situation that Canada Soccer kind of painted itself into. Right now, you have a situation where, and it will be interesting. And you highlighted this, so I don't know if you put it on the screen yet. So I apologize if this is redundant. But Danny does make a good point. I don't always agree with Danny on this, but there could be a counterbalance there between CSB and MLS. There also could be working together. Well, they could be working together too, right?
Like, great counterbalance. Yeah.
Hey, look, they could be working together. A lot of people at CSB know a lot of people at MLS, right? So this is not exactly
together.
Yeah, this is not exactly people shooting in the dark, not knowing each other. They know each other, right? So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. He's taking effect, or he's taking charge immediately. So he will get the team prepared for Copa America. He's got it. He's talked a lot about it in his initial press conference, just off some of the quotes that some of the reporters have been doing. Andre Ganze Ruzik, Arash Madani, I think, was on it as well. Obviously KJ was on it as well. Like, just talking about the fact that he wants to try to unify the soccer community in Canada, and whether look. You may laugh, and I get it, because we've all sort of seen this, and we've seen other managers try to do this, and it hasn't quite worked out, obviously. Look, he's saying all the right things. We're going to now see whether or not this translate into actual, tangible pieces, right? Right now, you got a new president that just got elected. who was the former president of Ontario Soccer. You have Kevin Blue now as a CEO. You now have a men's national team coach. I mean,
MLS men's national team coach.
MLS men's national team coach. Sorry, I did not get the branding right. I apologize. Hopefully, we won't have to pay them for that.
Yeah. Into the gulag with you, buddy.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, we'll see. The only thing I'm going to say is, man, Bev Priestman's going to be walking into the next contract negotiation, being like, where's my branding? All right, where's my MLS or NWSL national team women's head coach role? Give it to me, right?
Yep.
Like
we let a genie out of the bottle here, and people are celebrating it like it's a business, like it's a shrewd move. We made a mistake, and I mean, listen, like where is it? Couch banter. You know, of the presumed candidates, which coach would you have preferred, Nesker? One that we can afford, not one that we have to auction the entire federation on, and also create an opening for vested corporate interest. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but we didn't need to do this. We didn't need to do this, and we did. And now we're going to suffer at the hands of it. And
look,
it's so short-sighted and so stupid. I can't even believe it.
I will be interested to see what the Canadian soccer community's sort of reaction to this. One, we haven't even touched the fact that, like, look, he is an American, and a lot of people feel a way about that. I personally don't, but I know a lot of people do, and I don't think they're invalid in the way that they feel. But I will be interested to see the Canadian soccer community, a lot who have been pushing for a Canadian-born manager, right? Okay, it's not going to be Mauro Biello. We long said that was not going to be the case. But a lot of people have been pushing for Bobby Smirniotis. A lot of people have been pushing for Tommy Wilden Jr. I'm not going to say whether or not I think they were going to be the best selection or not. I'm a believer in Bobby Smirniotis only because I've seen it live in front of my eyes. That said, you went for the manager that has a bit of pedigree, international pedigree, at least from a club perspective, and you go for one that has a bigger name, right? They went for the bigger name, and I kind of get it.
For the mid name.
Well, the biggest name that you could get, like realistically, the Carlo Ancelotti stuff and the Frank Lampard stuff and all that, even Paulo Bento, all that was not going to happen. That was never going to happen. They had taken their names out of the list already. I get that. Even Jurgen Klinsmann, like, God forbid it had been Jurgen Klinsmann, but
God forbid.
But I mean, I think that you took the biggest name that was probably realistically within your wheelhouse, right? And
100%. And you sold the wheelhouse and the wheels and the future of the wheelhouse for the biggest name ever. So short-sighted, so insane. What's the exception? Mourinho? No, nobody's understanding me. If you can't afford these guys, you don't get these guys. That's simple arithmetic. Why is it different? Like, I would really like to buy my own jet. I can't afford my own jet, but I want it really badly. The conversation ends there. It ends there. Yeah, I would have paid for Cesc Fabregas, but that's my kryptonite, guys.
Hey, he wants to go to Serie A, man. He's going to Ibiza, and they got promoted, and he's taking Como to Ibiza now. Mm-hmm. But look, and again, G Money just sort of talks about here about Smirniotis, and listen, I don't know if his time was now. I'll be honest, I don't know either.
How many trophies has Bobby won, and how many trophies has Jesse Marsch won? Just asking, just asking for the gallery, right? I mean, how do we quantify it? Jesse Marsch went to Europe once. That's great.
They win a couple of trophies at Salzburg. I mean, it's easy for Salzburg to win the league, but I don't know. Like again, this is going to be a wait. This is going to be a wait and see for me. I get it. I 100%, and I do have my sort of suspicious eyes going right now towards this, but. We have spent about 25 minutes on this, so we will move on. But I mean, it will be interesting over the next couple of weeks to see how this all shakes out, and eventually, Rick Westhead or something's going to come out with some kind of article saying like how this got all screwed up. So that will be also interesting as well. Let's talk a little bit about TFC because this is still a TFC podcast. They lost on the weekend.
Presented by MLS.
Presented by Continental Tire. NYCFC 3, Toronto FC 2. in a game that a lot of people complained about the referees and the reffing.
I saw that. That was awesome.
Yeah, I know. The referees were not great. Yes, that is true. Toronto FC did not play that badly, in my opinion. I thought they actually played relatively well.
I thought they were the better team on the night.
I can hear an argument around that. I think NYCFC were a little bit more clinical, and they took advantage of some just bad individual mistakes, things that I think Toronto FC can clear up, right, and clean up. The big concern, I think, out of this game, one, before we get to all the accusations and the punch-ups and all that, is Kevin Long leaves with an apparent hamstring injury. Not good.
There been obviously an update on that? Or
no update yet. But he did leave the game with an injury. You are now looking at a game without him. I believe, and also believe he did he get an extra yellow card? He would have been yellow carded out of the game anyway.
I mean,
that's accumulation. Yeah. Federico Bernardeschi did get a second yellow at the end of the game. So as of right now, he will be missing the derby on the weekend as well. There was a report out there that maybe also Prince Owusu might have gotten a straight red in the melee. So if that is the case, again, that has not been fully confirmed. But if that is the case, he is also missing for the derby as well. So you've got some key pieces to this team potentially missing for what could be a pretty important derby, right? And just in terms of, again, just keeping the train rolling for this TFC squad. But Jeff, wanted to get your sort of just thoughts on the game in general.
I mean, Montreal got worked by Inter Miami, and they were holding on to a lead as well. So they're coming in hot. Which doesn't bode well, if I'm being honest. But I agree with the chat. Honestly, I agree with the chat. I'm not mad at Federico Bernardeschi for getting that extra red. I think it was absolutely ridiculous what we had to endure, especially coming off all the noise that was coming out of MLS HQ about the new. I mean, it was all over Messi League Soccer page. Messi was really upset about the new time wasting rules because he was caught in the crosshairs of it. And then here we go, with this thuggish dark art nonsense that was extra time. They got under our skin. I mean, they got under Davy Flores' skin, which I didn't think we'd ever see, but they managed to do it. They got under just about everybody's skin, whether that was a trickle down effect of all the allegations that we'll talk about later is anybody's guess. But they didn't come to play; they came for chaos, and they got chaos. I'm a firm believer that if Oso hadn't hit the crossbar, it's an entirely different game. Different game.
Yes.
So on to the next.
And the next, just to correct myself, and everybody in the chat is correct. Yes, we do play Nashville. So some of those guys will miss the Nashville game. It's a possibility that Prince Owusu also misses the derby because it was a straight red. So I don't know what the sort of, I don't know what Disco is going to come with, or disciplinary committee is going to come out with. There's a possibility also disciplinary committee comes out against Sean Johnson as well for what happened after the game. But I agree. I think that if Oso puts that chance away, he also had a chance prior to hitting the bar, which, it was a little bit in front of him. He had to stretch out for it. But those first sort of 15, 20 minutes, you could have seen TFC take the lead. And that's I agree with you. It would have been, I think, a completely different game. But at the same time, you get a penalty. I agree it was a handball. I can see it both ways. I'm not completely upset with that particular VAR call. The second goal comes from Heinz Wolf basically manhandling Davy Flores, which you do not see very often.
You don't see very often, but they got under his skin.
He just shrugged him off. Yeah, he just shrugged him off, and look, it was a great second goal. That was sort of the backbreaker. a momentum perspective, obviously, Bernadeschi scores again. Getting Rob Petretta on the board is great. I know it was late and sort of a bit of a consolation goal. But I think it does. I think there are positives to take out of this. It sucks to lose to this team, and again, we'll go into the accusations in a minute. But I think overall, you can be happy with the play. I wonder but I think we do have one question, and it's now this sort of who's going to play beside Davy Flores in the midfield kind of question. It rotates every week. It seems like it's Cuejo for 1 or 2 games, then it's Longstaff. It is one of the 3 questions, but I'm going to ask it now. Just, I know your love of Cuejo, but, who you think should be starting in that midfield on a regular basis for TFC?
I said it. You platoon them 100%. You platoon them because, I mean, Maddie and Berna are developing some crazy chemistry. Those back heel passes that they were doing were absolutely delicious. I mean, Fede is willing to do some techers out there now because him and Maddie have developed a chemistry that I think supersedes his chemistry with Cuejo. So if Maddie starts and Cuejo can't go 90 minutes. He just can't. And worse
right
than
now,
that,
neither seem to be able to go 90 minutes.
And they're getting too many minutes, and it's starting to show. This fixture congestion is revealing that Maddie's not match fit. Cuejo's sort of wilting a little bit just because of the excess minutes that he's playing. And this is really speculation on my part, but you platoon them and you game plan around what they add. If you want to start off the game with some silky Spanish midfielding, then, the Cuejo's on the team sheet. If you want a more steady presence, you want a bit more chemistry with Bernadeschi, you start Longstaff, and when he starts to fade, you bring in Cuejo. I think that's always been the answer, and my opinion on that hasn't really changed. There's 100%.
Yeah, no, I'm still on the Longstaff probably starts train, right? Like, and I think you bring Cuejo off the bench. I don't know. That said, Cuejo didn't necessarily have the best showing when coming off.
No,
the bench
he didn't bathe himself in glory. 100%.
No, but
really didn't.
But I still think you're seeing him. You're going to have those little dips. I think those dips are getting less and less each week, especially after the Charlotte game and after the big mistake he made to give the ball away. But still, I think right now you're probably safer with Matty Longstaff starting at the moment, and you sort of ride it, and hopefully he's starting to get more 90 minutes match fit, so that you can ride him a little bit longer. Other couple of just positives. I do think you're starting to see a surprising, I think, improvement in Sigurd Rosted. I know, again, not always in glory on Saturday, but
so nervous, man. He makes me so nervous.
That is one thing. When he gets the ball, sometimes on his right foot, he makes me nervous. But
well, when he's defending, he makes me nervous because he goes in for these insane kamikaze Chris Mavinga, in Russia kind of tackles. He's going to take somebody's head off, and then he immediately disappears, right? Like he immediately disappears back into the crowd because he knows he's probably going to get called for an instant red. He makes me really nervous out there. I don't like him being the last line of defense because he's either going to concede a foul or get himself sent off. He's the Norwegian Daniel Henry. I mean, that's a pretty perfect approximation there. He's dangerous out there. He's not a very composed footballer, and playing thuggish teams like NYCFC is a recipe for disaster, right? Like, how many times have we subbed off a center back whose name is Sigurd Rosted because we're worried that he's going to get sent off because he's chaos out there?
Yes and no. I think he's put in some okay performances this year, enough that you can kind of trust him in certain positions. I don't think like you said, I don't think you want him to be the anchor, right? That has been Kevin Long. And we'll see how long Kevin Long's out. Hopefully it's not a serious, injury. Maybe he was just feeling something and it's a precautionary. But considering that, he is technically on accumulation already and he might be hurt, we'll see how that goes. It looks like maybe the Kosi Thompson center back experience will continue for a little bit. Or maybe you're throwing an Ami, or maybe you're throwing an Ami Mabika, right? Like that's the other option.
No.
That's
Cozy forever. Man. Cozy forever and ever. Amen.
I don't know. Cozy's positioning sometimes center back is it gets me a little.
Amy Mabika gives me hives.
And look, but at the same time, like he's not his natural center back. So I mean, would you you know, he's
Neither
still
is
learning the
Mabika.
position.
Sorry, I'm done with that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. No, fair enough. All right. The other thing I'll just say here is that Matt Freese, I'll give him a hand, goalkeeper for NYCFC, made some really great saves as well. Actually, I know one of them was technically offside or was going to be flagged offside in the first half, but he made some good saves to keep keep his team in it, right? And again, that's where those ones where you get a little bit of luck the other way around, and this is a different result than a loss. Okay, I know you got a Heard's the word, which we'll get into the whole melee and sort of what's been happening behind the scenes. So let's go to a little Heard's the word.
All right.
Can I see that paper for a sec? Huh, that's odd.
What are you talking about?
Oh, have you not heard?
Heard what?
Heard the word. Heard the word. Don't you know about the herd?
Surfing!
Anything can happen in football these days.
It's a bit of a two-parter, so I'll just roll part one.
There were things that had happened in the previous game in the tunnel that I think have just spilled over into this game, and I just think, like I say, some of the game management, and ultimately we felt, you know, there was probably less time added on to the clock, and we were right there. I think we were right there. A couple of more minutes, and we'd have got at least one more opportunity with Lorenzo on the pitch, Shozo and Fede. So, you know, I think it's the passion in our team. We've talked about creating a family bond together, and yeah, I mean, you don't want to see those scenes in football, but it's a passionate group, and there was definitely some bad blood that had spilled over from that first game that involved their head coach.
You were right in the middle of it, I think, trying to be peacemaker. What did you see going down?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, like the gaffer mentioned, a lot of animosity from the last game.
So I got to apologize. I'm going to double up what Oso started with, but damn, I love that slow pan over to Oso, just mean mugging. That was some fantastic camera work there. Anyway, there's going to be a bit of a repeat, but let's just get Oso's shout in.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, like the gaffer mentioned, a lot of animosity from the last game, from what happened at halftime. You know, their coach starts to talk and say things to certain players that I think is maybe crossing the line a little bit. But then when we hear that they corner the coach and 3 of the players corner a 19-year-old of ours by himself, that's when there's a problem. And I think that kind of carried over this game, probably from their side as well, from everything that happened in over there in New York. And yeah, so we were just letting them know that we didn't forget about that. And then I think one of their players, crossed the line and headbutt Sean Johnson.
Number 12.
Yeah, I to be honest, I don't remember the number, but I saw him. He headbutt Sean, and Sean, as any person, you know, you're going to react, and that's how it starts. So, you know, I understand. Maybe we were, you know, we were, our emotions got the best of us a little bit, and we were talking, but nothing. We weren't being physical or nothing. But this is the second time that they've gone physical now with our players, and that's how it started, and that's how it gets out of control. And that's basically all where it stems from.
Right. Before you say anything, I just want to get that up there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 100%. Wasn't he
Red
there?
one.
Didn't Richie come out in his street clothes to
He might
raise
have
some
been on the
ruckus?
pitch in his street clothes.
Yeah,
Handbags and glad rags at BMO Field
Yikes.
at full
Yikes.
time. A lot to parse out there. So let's sort of break it down one by one. Yes, Sean Johnson did get headbutt. That's on camera. Like a lot of people saw that. He 100% got headbutt. That's why he was going mental at the at full time, and rightfully so. So that happened. Then you're talking about sort of the bad blood from the last game in March. So if you're unaware, at halftime there was a scuffle in the tunnel at Yankee Stadium between TFC and NYCFC. So that was a thing that was already brewing from the last game, and now we find out via both John Herdman and Jonathan Osorio that apparently Nick Cushing, the head coach for NYCFC, plus 2 other players, cornered a 19-year-old on their team. It's only one 19-year-old.
Gosh, I wonder who that is.
The guy who scored the goal on that night. And who knows, right? Punched him, apparently, is the claim. Now, NYCFC and Nick Cushing actually held a press conference today and vehemently deny that any of this took place in terms of the cornering of, let's just say, Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy. A lot to parse out there, right? It's a serious accusation, right? And part of me is
2 serious accusations, because let's not forget this whole idea of what we're supposing words were exchanged to precipitate the headbutt. That's another serious accusation that's on the lips and minds of both
of people. We don't know if that is true, so I very much hesitate to say that because I don't know. But I mean,
we're not going there beyond that.
But part of me is like, why would you bring this up now in public? At the same time, you're looking at John Herdman and Jonathan Osorio. These are not guys who are just going to say things to say things, right? Well, John maybe a little bit, but like, it's a he said at the moment, and it's just an interesting one because I feel like this is something that is going to linger for a while between these two teams.
If the pundits south of the border have their way, it's going to be something that lingers for the season. If the pundits on the West Coast supporting the White Caps have their way, it'll be something that the rope that they hang John Herdman with. I don't want to suppose here. We're not privy to the details. We're simply not, and people are making guesses that are right out of their asses. We're not privy to MLS internal communications. We're not in possession of the facts, but to presuppose that, they just brought it up now and therefore they're wrong because they didn't bring it up in March. How do you know that? I don't know that. Do you have access to MLS internal communications? Because I don't think you do. So we can't say that. It's convenient that there are no cameras at Yankee Stadium in that specific place. That's kind of suspect. What can you say? What I will say is Herdman has a reputation for shooting off his mouth, whether it's deserved or not. I do believe that requires a certain bit more care when he has these press conferences that I don't see him espousing. This is something that he's going to have to wear now. So it's kind of a boy that cried wolf situation. You've now put it out there, and listen. I watched the Nick Cushing press conference, and they're thumping their chest pretty hardcore. Like the word lawyers and taking it to the league office was mentioned more than once. So whether you like it or not, the burden of proof is now on TFC's shoulders.
Yeah, and
that's a shitty place to be.
It is, and look, I tweeted out that I don't know if it served the team to bring this out publicly at the moment. I get it was the heat of the moment after the game, rethinking that. So of course somebody's going to ask you that question, and you're going to give context into why.
No, you don't. You absolutely don't have to.
Well, no, maybe you don't. But think about it, right? They've just come off the pitch. They've just had this moment. They're still pretty hot about it. Yeah, you're probably going to answer the question. Do I think it necessarily
needs
helps
to go
the
into
team at the moment?
Details?
Yeah, I
Not
don't
at all.
think it helped. Yeah, I don't think it helps the team at the moment. That said, okay, it's done. It's been said. I think one of the things here, look, and this is now international news. It was on the Guardian. This incident's
Oh
on the
yeah.
Guardian. And Cushing
Wait
has
for
come
the
out and said,
Croatian papers, too.
he said, and I quote, I categorically deny any involvement or any incident where I have punched or assaulted any Toronto FC player or staff member. He said, I am shocked personally, and I'm upset by the allegations. Right. So the questions that you got to ask is, okay, this happened in March. Was there an investigation done by the league? Like, did TFC or NYCFC take this to the league? It appears, according to this article in The Guardian, that this is only going to the league from an investigation perspective now. So,
That's not a good look.
was this? Yeah, well, why did this not go to investigation at the time? Why is this only coming out now? And look, I get it. There's a part of us as a fan base who is going to back our players and is going to back our manager and do that. There is also a part of me that thinks, okay, if this didn't quite happen the way people think it happened, does this maybe put a bad blemish on the club? That said, what incentive does Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy have to lie about this? Like, you know what I mean? That's the other part of this that you got to think about, is what incentive would he have to make this up? And that's the thing that is coming to my mind, is like, what would Toronto FC gain realistically out of lying about this or making it up?
It's a bad chess move. I mean, it really, really is. You don't sit down at the poker game and say you have an ace in your hand before the flop, right? So what are we doing here? It's just the calculations don't make any damn sense to me. And now the burden of proof rests squarely on our shoulders. It was completely and totally unnecessary, and I'm worried because there's not a lot of ways to prove this. This is going to be proven in the court of public opinion, and you've already got a guy who's had to wear incendiary statements in the recent history. So I just think it was dumb. I mean, we're talking about two really dumb moves. The Jesse Marsch hire in this. The word
I'm
of
just
the
going
day
to put
is
this
dumb.
up here from James, and obviously James is a longtime listener. Look, I get that point. That point has been made quite a bit over the last couple of days.
There are easier ways to galvanize the fans than putting yourself in this kind of a hole of your own design. You don't have to step
that's
on the
where
rim.
I come from in terms of going out publicly about this, right? Like, the fans were already galvanized. You got 19 points out of a whole bunch of games. You're third in the East. Fans are galvanized, right? They're behind the coach, they're behind the manager, and they're behind the players right now. So I don't necessarily think you needed that.
No, we were already galvanized.
Yeah, we'll see. I just
didn't need a postscript.
I don't know where this goes. I really don't know where this goes, and I don't know how, if this dies down. Like, it will die down, but at some point somebody's going to have to say something about this, right? Because that's I
don't think it will. This is the perfect storm, because there is no way to prove it beyond the court of public opinion. And that sucks. And you're putting the same 19-year-old that you were trying to protect right in the crosshairs of all of this bullshit. So who are you protecting?
Yeah, but again,
like, the knock-on effect of this is that JMR is no longer a soccer player. He's now the defendant in this insane case of he said. It's dumb as all F.
Well,
it really is. It's so effing stupid.
Maybe that the fact that it's public, yes. I tend to believe the story because, I mean, like, again, what incentive does this club have to lie about something like this? Like, I like, what incentive would they?
Why
have?
are we asking the question? Why were we put in a position where we have to have this conversation?
Well, I mean, it's because it is a he said. There's no cameras, there's no proof, right? And
choose your battles. This is a terrible battle to choose. This is not a battle that you win. This is Kobayashi Maru. It's a lose-lose situation. I don't understand the logic behind it, and I think it's going to follow us like a bad disease far longer than we'd like it to. The knock-on effect is the ends absolutely don't justify the means here. And
Well,
if
I
you
think
to protect JMR, congratulations, you just made his life that much more difficult for the next foreseeable future. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I think it was dumb, and I think there's going to be a lot. I think we're going to have to answer for the Piper on this one.
Yeah, well, we'll see. In terms of what happens next, now that this is out, the questions we should be asking Toronto FC and both Toronto FC and NYCFC is there in the league has there been an investigation? If there hasn't been an investigation, is there one now underway?
For sure, there's one now underway.
Well, I mean, look, it doesn't. It appears like it may just be starting. According to the Guardian article, the NYCFC has asked the league to look into this. So it's whether this already happened and Toronto FC are responding to it by if nothing happened and the league came back and said we can't prove anything, so we're gonna let this go. Or this is the first time the league is really going to be looking into this. It will be interesting. I don't know where this ends up going, but again, these are three people in Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy, Jonathan Osorio, and John Herdman that really don't have any incentive to like make this up, right? Like it doesn't really make a ton of sense for them to make it up.
None of this makes any sense. None of it makes any sense. Sometimes you shut the F up. What's all that media training for if you're just going to throw out like fiery incendiary stuff whenever they put a microphone in your face? What are we paying for the media training? This is there is no way to rationalize this. This is a fight we shouldn't have introduced. This is a dialogue that we should never ever have introduced into the wider context, and we did, and now we're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Bad behavior. You got to prove it. You can't just say bad behavior, G-Money. Like, if there was bad behavior and it's provable, then you go to the mat. But you don't go to the mat with nothing, no proof whatsoever. That's a bad bet. And there's no way that you can rationalize it as a good one. If you want to win an argument in the court of public opinion, you best not miss. If you want to come for the king, you best not miss. You don't do it on a house of cards, and you don't go all in on a losing hand, which is what we're doing here. So,
well, look, I think this does not end well for either party, right? If it did happen, Nick Cushing could get sacked. Nick should probably get sacked, right? Like if you punch a player, you cornered a player and punch them in the face, you probably should get sacked. So doesn't end.
We're dead in the water.
Exactly. And if it doesn't, then the reputation of
our reputation suffers.
Not just our, but obviously John Herdman, like you talking about ropes looking to hang him. That's a big one. Like imagine you go into your workplace and you accuse somebody of punching somebody in the face with no proof, go on and publicly about it, and then it turns out it never happened, and it looks like you fabricated and made it up. Doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. That said, again, it just I can't in my mind believe that these guys would make this. Like it doesn't fit the MO. Even for John Herdman, who has shot his mouth off in the past, like it doesn't really fit their MO. So it doesn't really, to me, make sense that this would be somehow fabricated. There's something in the middle here that we're not quite getting the whole story on.
You bring receipts. Or you shut the F up. I don't know how often I have to stress what should be completely obvious to anybody with a functioning brain. You do not bet the farm on a losing hand. And if you're coming for somebody, you better have receipts. I mean, holy S. What are we doing here? Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. All right. We're just going to skip the three questions this week. We'll just go straight to the outro. I think we're done for this week.
Why? Let's do. Why? I've still got some energy left. Look at me. I'm all hopped up. I don't
all
care.
All right.
I don't care.
Yeah. I didn't have great ones anyway. They weren't great questions. All right. Thank you all for
the next 2 hours.
Thank you for tuning in to another Toronto Till I Die. Follow us on all the socials. You know where to find us at this point. If you are new to the show, though, do search Toronto Till I Die on all your socials, and you can find us there. Subscribe on YouTube if you haven't, and please leave a rating if you're listening to this on the podcast version. We will we should have a Who Are You this week for Montreal with a special guest. Hopefully we're lining that up. If we do get this down, it will be very exciting to have this guest. So we will come
Joey
with more
Saputo.
news.
Sorry, I spoiled the. We got
The
Joey.
Cheese Man himself is coming on board, especially because he loved the fact that I called him the Cheese Man. Therefore, he will definitely do our show now.
L'homme fromage.
Yeah, we'll announce that in the coming days once we get that booked. But for Jeffrey P. Nesker, I'm Mike Newell. We'll see you next week. Cheers, everybody.
And wait, and baby, I'm TFC till I die.